Congratulations, Dereck. 2,500 subscribers and more to come, I'm sure of that. Very good. Well, I'm not surprised at all. You have an awesome video, you're an awesome guy, and it's not just music in your channel. Lots of interesting thoughts, some rants now and then, but I wish I could do that too, but I'm not a ranting kind of a person. And now it's time for your first contest. Well, 2005 subscribers later. Show at least one record hardly anyone else has. The most obscure. Well, you mentioned that it might be a CD in this case, so if we don't have any particular vinyl record, I mean, I have some vinyl records that are very rare, but not that incredibly obscure. I mean, I'm sure there are others who have the copies of the rarest vinyl records that I've got in my collection. So I have to take a different approach here, and it's a bit well, more egoistic, and I'm not going to show you CDs of my own music, but I'm going to show you CDs, and these are also connected to a video I made, I think it was 4 months ago, when I talked about my great friend Roger, who passed away in September 2011, and I made a video about him a year later, on the year, well, when it was 1 year after his passing. Both of us were, and I still am, I've always been very interested in recordings, even back in the 80s when we had our cheap tape recorders, and well, we constantly taped over our old recordings because we couldn't afford, and we didn't have that many tapes to record on. So the sound quality got worse and worse, and also many recordings were lost. Well, in some cases, well, I don't care really, because, well, they weren't that incredibly good. But well, today I do care a bit, because it would have been much more interesting to have more of the really old material left, but I only have some material from 1986 up until, well, 2011 when we last met and made our last recordings. And that's often what we did. We had great fun, and when we had fun, we had some sort of recording device recording it. First cassettes, then later mini discs, and then later mini discs with some sort of digital microphone. So and I did I often save them on cassettes, and in the early 2000s, in the noughties, in 2001 to be more precise, I bought a CD recorder, and it wasn't the kind you find in the computer. It was I don't know if you remember these CD recorders. You had to have a special kind of CDR for them. They were called CDR audio, and it looked like an ordinary stationary CD player, but you could record on it as well. And I bought one of those in 2001. It was quite expensive, I thought. Well, for me at least. I was a student back then, and the CD audio CDs, you couldn't use ordinary CDR discs, well, on them. You had to have the CD audio, and they were a bit more expensive too, especially back then. The problem with this machine that was of the Philips brand, it was that it was crap, and it destroyed more CDs than it recorded. So finally I had enough of it and got rid of it. I wanted another one, but then they were out of market, so then I didn't do any more CD recordings up until, well, when I got my first really good computer. But anyway, so back in 2001 I started to make some different compilation CDs and even took the time to design some CD covers from some of the old recordings that we made together, and I brought some here. Thought I'd show you. As I said, most of the recordings that Roger and I did, they were, well, it was improvisations or just letting our mind wanders and our silliness live out. I mean, and well, I remember us having a great fun when we did these recordings. And one of these that I've saved, it's a CD, as you can see, and it's called Tetons snackar, and which means look who's talking, or look who's talking. And it's a compilation of some improvisations, improvisational speeches that Roger did between the years 1989 and 2001 when I compiled the CD. And he talks about different things. He talks about train journeys. He talks about the Olympics in Lillehammer in 1994. He talks about aging. He talks about his grandfather. He talks about monkeys. About a weird guy called Mr. Hjort, and a female friend from his childhood, gardening, and well, all kinds of different things. And I just let him stand in front of the microphone, and I just sat back and listened to him talking, and well, I compiled this into a CD, and I printed I think maybe 3 copies. I kept one, and I think I kept one as a spare one if anything was wrong with the other ones. And I only printed 2 copies. This one and a copy that I gave to him, of course. And today I don't know where that copy is. If it's probably been thrown away, but I'm not sure. And it looks quite good as a CD. The actual CD is just, well, it looks like this with a very just handwritten label. We also did a so-called fake radio comedy show. Well, it wasn't real radio, but it was meant to be a radio about a small town in Sweden that had, when Sweden joined the European Union, there was a small town in Sweden, well, not a real town, of course, that so hated the fact that Sweden would join the European Union, so they broke free from Sweden and formed their own kingdom. But of course this town was so small, so nobody in the rest of Sweden even noticed that they had left Sweden. And that kingdom was called Kostad, and the name was, I think it was Roger who invented that name. And we did that in 1994 when it was the European Union elections in Sweden. And we started making recordings on different themes. Some numbers were, well, translated from, well, British or American comedy numbers, not as known in Sweden, and translated or adapted or, well, Swedified for our purposes. Also, we did write some of our own material, and we did a lot of improvising. The base was always the improvisation, and we did a number of recordings on different themes. About sports, about politics, about Christmas, Easter, New Year. We did one whole show that was just a praising of one very boring human being that lived in that town or that country, Kostad. He worked in a factory that made knitting needles, and his thing he was supposed to do at that factory was to to inspect the knitting needles. He was a knitting needle inspector. Yeah. Well, and there was another recording you made that had a theme of advertisements and commercials. Yeah, between 1994 and 2008 we made around a dozen different recordings, so I guess there's around 13-14 hours of recorded material that we did that. And in 2001 I put together a compilation disc with best recordings from between 1994 and 2001. It was called Kostad för noviser, or Kostad for dummies, as we would say today. Also this only exists in 2 copies, or did exist in 2 copies. I don't know what happened to the other one. It may be still around somewhere, but I'm not sure. This is my copy anyway. So this is another CD that is extremely rare. Yeah. And shortly before I moved away from the same town where he lived, shortly before I moved down to Stockholm, we made a recording of different improvisations, and we had done lots of recording, but this was like a final recording, the final one. It wasn't the final one, but we thought, well, just in case, let's make a final one. And then it was called Lilla Kamel, Little Camel, and this was just with a very simple plastic card, plastic sleeve, but I took the time to make some sort of design of the CD here, and that looks quite professional. I should start doing this again, because I've got lots of tapes that I'm going to bring down to Stockholm. I'm keeping them at my mother's place because I haven't been able to take them down, but now when he's passed away I need to get them down here and, well, listen to them and, well, maybe digitalize them. Lots of tapes. Later years we didn't meet that often, but then we often did some recordings based on the radio show Just a Minute, in which we were supposed to talk about different subjects in 1 minute without hesitating, deviating, and repeating. So we call it minutvalsarna, and that's just like a Swedish version, the minute waltzers. And since Roger never had an MP3 wasn't part of his words, so he preferred CDs. So I always, when we did recordings, I burned some CDs, and sometimes I took the time to make a nice presentation and a nicer sleeve, and this is an example of that. This is Minutvalsarna, episode 79 and 80. We managed to make 100 episodes of these between 2005 and 2011. The last one, the 100th one, was made 2 months before he passed away. We didn't know it would be the last one, and we didn't feel it would be the last one. So, and this also has a bit of it looks a bit more professional with this printed CD label. Yeah, so those are some records, although CDs, CDRs or CDR audios in some cases, that they are incredibly obscure because they only exist in maybe 2 or 3 copies, and probably isn't of interest for anybody else, but I'm very happy that I have them still, yeah, they mean a lot to me. So that is the record I'm going to show in this, or the records I'm going to show in these this 2,500 subscribers contest. Congratulations again, Dereck. You're worth it. You're the greatest. Bye bye.